So you've finished all of your little octopus legs, and now we're going to crochet them together in a circle to work the body from the bottom up. This way we don't have to sew these legs on because that would take a really long time because there's 8 legs. So to do that, we need to make a slip stitch join, which all begins with what's called a slip knot. So take your pink yarn, lay it horizontally on whatever surface you're working on, pick up that cut off piece of yarn, and loop it once over itself. Then take the edge of the circle that you just made and then fold that circle over so that the circle is laying on top of the rest of the yarn connected to the yarn ball. Pick up the center of that circle, the line that's going through the center of that circle with one hand, and then pull on the yarn tail with the other until a knot forms. This, my dear wooblers, is called a slip knot. Then we gotta stick it onto the hook. If you are right-handed, you want the knot to be to the left of your hook, and if you're left-handed, you want it to be to the right of your hook. The important part is that when you pull on the yarn connected to the yarn ball, that knot will move towards your hook. And you want to move that knot until it makes a loop on your hook that is the size of the tip of your hook. Now we are ready for the slip stitch join. So pick up your first leg that you would like to work on. And I think it's a little bit easier to demo if you work on the opposite side of where you have the invisible fasten off. So we made these legs. They have a total of 6 stitches along the rim. So you should see 6 V's. And what we are going to do is crochet all of these, all of the legs together so that they're shut. And that means we need to crochet together 3 pairs of stitches. So this is what it looks like. If I put my hook under one V, I need to find the other set of V across from it so that I will ultimately wind up with 3 pairs of V's if I keep going down this route. I'm gonna slip stitch join my new pink yarn here. So I'm going to hold on to the yarn connected to the yarn ball, yarn over, and then pull that yarn through everything that's on the hook. That was the slip stitch join. Then I'm going to single crochet in exactly the same spot. And you can tell where that spot is because if you move the hook and the working yarn, you'll see the working yarn is passing through a hole in the octopus leg. That's the hole you just did the slip stitch into. So stick your hook in that same spot, yarn over, bring the yarn through where you just put the hook into, so you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook. And remember, now you've made the first stitch of this round, so we're going to mark that with the stitch marker. And now we're just going to single crochet every pair of stitches all the way around. So you have a second pair here on this leg. You can double check because it should look like you've got 5 strands of yarn on your hook. 1 from the loop that was already on your hook, 2 from the stitch closest to you, and then another 2 from the stitch across from that one. Then yarn over, bring that yarn through all of that stuff you just put the hook under. So you have 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over again and pull through both loops on the hook, and do this again for the last pair of stitches like so. Awesome. So I've finished working with this leg, which means I'm ready to pick up the next leg and do exactly the same thing. I don't need a slip stitch join anymore because the yarn's already nicely a part of all this now. So I just need to keep single crocheting these pairs of stitches instead. So that's 1 pair of stitches. Just make sure as you do this to keep the working yarn behind the hook. Sometimes you might get in some situation where the working yarn's in front. Make sure it's always behind. If you also want to save yourself some time with not needing to weave in as many yarn tails, You can also, as you're doing this, try to crochet over any yarn tails. So this is what I mean. I'm taking the yarn tail from the previous leg and also draping that over my hook. That way when I do this first yarn over, when I then complete the single crochet stitch, the yarn tail from the previous leg is being crocheted over, and that helps make it all super secure. So hopefully now that I've done 3 legs, you're starting to get a sense of how this comes together to connect all 8 legs into a circle. And I'll meet you at the end so you can see what it looks like. When you finish the first round, you're gonna have something that looks kind of like this. All of the legs in one line. When you start the next round, you are going to crochet into the stitch mark by the stitch marker, like you always do when you start a new round. And just make sure that you don't twist the legs, because you want them to be able to lay flat later.